was kind of hoping it would be cold down here.
It usually is.
I know. I'm looking forward to, Catherine. It did not happen this time.
You never know.
Yes.
It may be, it got so cold upstairs, we turned everything off and it may have affected down here.
Well, it's never cold when you want it to be cold, right?
Yes, that's right. You never have quite what you want. But as long as it's not microbursting, we're all set.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Did you see MCI just cut down a whole bunch of their trees again? I'm like,
know.
it already looked empty, now it looks
I
pretty.
know.
Yeah, they're taking them all out.
It's gonna
So I want to talk to, is it Milton, I think, that's the head of the Alumni Association, and see if we can do a drive to do new trees up front.
No, they're not doing that. That's,
I
They're
thought
gonna
they were
change
going
the
to.
campus.
they're not putting them back, they're changing that whole front campus.
Really?
That center drive's going away, so it'll be like up and around type deal. One-way traffic.
But I loved the M-shaped trees.
I know, it was beautiful.
Nothing to do with milk.
Yeah. It's too
Oh, I know,
late.
I was just gonna see if we could arrange some kind of fundraiser, but if the school's not doing that, then it doesn't matter.
Nope.
I could even give them some little trees from Project Canopy, but they'll be in the way.
Yep.
So we have Heather on here, getting ready.
Before we get started, Catherine, how are we doing on the job search for our?
For everything.
We
Yeah.
believe we have a candidate for, I know, all three left at once for different purposes. Steve Seacon still checks on us. We believe we have a building inspector, a code enforcement officer. He has no training in the field except for a couple of days, so we're going through the background checks, and then the individual, will have to be trained. Steve said he'll be in, and Al said he will be in too, and they'll probably all work together for a while, and then be available. And then we thought we had a recycling transfer station candidate, and we still may, because we just got a bunch in because Puritan's laying off their second shift, or at least some of them. So we got some candidates. And then
Public Works?
Public Works, that's a little bit difficult. We do have an internal candidate. Oh, Heather's back, so that's something to work on here. External candidates, no. None that were qualified. We did have some. Ideal worked well. Kimbo said to use that. We used it before, it never worked. This time it did work.
Oh, that's good.
And then a lot of candidates, they just weren't qualified.
That's too bad.
Let me get
How many officers are we down?
3.
Right.
3.
So 3 actual, and then the 2 new positions, or 1 new position in SRO.
Right. So 5.
Yeah. All right, we're all set to go if you'd like to. Start, and we'll record to the computer.
This meeting is being recorded.
All right.
Whenever you're ready, we can do the pledge.
Yes, thank you.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of
the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh my goodness, that's right. The last time we met was in April. So did anybody have any questions or concerns about the meeting minutes from April's meeting? I don't really see Heather.
All right, Heather is coming here.
Don't. Was that
That
the
was when we
meeting
did the
that
fire department and the police.
in the police department?
Yeah.
So were there should have been a review of some of the ideas that the chief had and results and all that stuff. Is that something we've gotten back yet, or not?
I have notes, and that was a project for Saturday, Sunday, but the microburst interfered with, well, everything.
Well, you know, that happens when you lose power.
I guess so, yes, that was something else. But luckily, everybody got it back by Sunday night. Yeah.
So that's
I'll-
something
I'll
you'll be
have
working
those.
on coming up?
I'll have those in the future.
Okay.
Oh, Heather's trying again here.
Well, you provided ideas to Catherine, right?
Yeah, he had that whole list to all of us.
Right.
Yeah, I did.
And we haven't done anything with it since April 13th?
I gave it to the Labor Negotiation Committee,
Uh-huh.
which had some challenges in having a meeting, but did get together.
Okay.
And they made decisions on the items, and I provided that information to the police chief after they approved the document.
Was that gonna be provided to us since those,
If you would like a copy, you can have that.
That would be great.
Yeah.
I can do that. I'll do that with the minutes, I'll get that all done.
I have it now, if you want me to go up and copy it.
That would be awesome, Pete, if you could do that.
I'll take me.
I prefer the hard copies anyway, than make notes on it.
All right, so for the minutes, you'll receive those once we get caught up from the microburst. And then for the paperwork, expense warrants, they were here to sign. And water sewer commitments are always on there. There are none to do because it's halfway through the month.
Okay, so we don't actually have the minutes to approve until
Correct.
next meeting, okay?
I have notes that are typed up, but I didn't put them into minutes. That was a project for Saturday, Sunday, and unfortunately, I was cutting down trees.
So then, on to regular business, since we don't have warrants.
Yes, so what I thought I would do is do a very brief review of the capital improvement plan, doing the history very briefly, and then going to the current plan, and then going on to projects that we want to do for the future.
Okay. Which tab is that under? in
Yes, so we would start out with the history under tab 7.
so,
Tab 7. Thank you.
And under tab 7, the easiest way to do this is to look at the Excel spreadsheet, which is the 11 by 17, which is after the descriptions. So after 21 pages of description, or 11 pages, there is the Excel spreadsheet. So this is the history.
Which one is it?
Yeah,
Sorry,
you've
couple.
got it. I think you've got it there, under number 7. It's this 2-page document, which has the history. And it would say 2003 through 2018.
oh,
That's not the one I have.
that's not it.
That's under tab 7.
I'm in tab 7, but we have 21 through 25.
Oh, it's a little further in.
Yes, go past the
No, but why
21
is-
through 25.
Why is that even in the history thing? It's not history,
Okay,
it's future.
so you said 2003 to 2014?
Yeah, it'll have the history in it, yes.
Oh,
Yes, you have it.
all right.
So this is the history. When I arrived, you had a 5-year plan, and you would have a document that listed the capital projects, but nothing else. And then you'd have to go back in the history and keep each document. So when you came to the budget meetings, you'd have to bring all of your history, 4 years of history, and then your current year. So we made up the Excel spreadsheet so that we could put all the projects on here. And instead of just having 5 years, which is a requirement of the capital plan, we have, of the charter, we actually have 5 years plus another 5 years, and then we have all the history. So the projects are listed on the left side, like police cruisers, we always got those. Fire department and paving. If the council was not interested in a loan in a particular year, that project would not get done. Those are the ones that usually didn't get done because they were big ticket things. Other things, other items were usually done. And so the projects are all listed here. So we're behind basically on the fire trucks, because they were large items and the council would decide that particular year, no loans. And then the paving, sometimes we did the project, sometimes we didn't. It just depended on what the council at that time wanted to do. So a lot of these projects, like waste transporter got purchased, and municipal building capital work got done, the swimming pool got done. Almost all of these projects had money that went to projects, or the monies were put in the reserve account. And for that first section, which is 1 through 31, the projects at the bottom of the document are those that would get completed if there was grant money, if there was capital money, donations, foundation funding. And some of those projects did get done. We got to do the airport projects, not in the years we listed them, but they did get done. The industrial park expansion got done. Airport hangar, as we can see, we tried to do that in 2011. It's now 2021 and it's coming. Slow but steady there. We listed projects we really wanted to do. The community center, the downtown revitalization, library project got done, but as listed at the last meeting, it took 10 years to do it because you had to raise a lot of money. We did some energy conservation too, not as much as what's listed, but whatever grant money was available, foundation money, and donations. So this is pretty much your history. And of your history, that total was $17,611.64. But some of the fire trucks and some of the paving was not done. It just depended if there was a loan in a particular year.
Catherine, if there's an amount listed, does that mean it was something that actually was allocated because this is history, or is this something we had planned to do but didn't?
So those items were all allocated, but whether we did them or not depended on the cost. It depended on whether, for the loans, for the fire trucks, for example. 2 fire trucks were purchased, but the others were not done. It depended on that council in that particular year if they wanted to get a loan or not.
So how do we know if it was, when it was allocated, if it was actually done?
We would have to go back through the records of the town. There's no town that I know of that goes back and creates documents that shows what you did. You know, you have your history in the files, but that's not something that's done for a capital improvement plan. Capital improvement plan is projects that you want to do. It doesn't always mean that you'll do them. Most of these were done.
Right, but how will we know when we bought, say, fire truck number 1?
We'd have to go to the debt service files in the office and pull them out.
Well, I feel like this plan should be updated. Each year should be updated to reflect actually what you spent.
That's not something that's usually done by towns. You do a capital improvement plan. I've done these in 4 towns and know of other towns, and they don't do a document that says what you did.
Well, then what's the history for? This isn't.
It shows that most of the projects were done except for the fire trucks because they were loans, and sometimes the paving.
Yeah, but
I mean, if you want to add on something.
If I'm a regular person, how do I know that it was actually done or not done without you telling me that?
When people come in, generally they come in and look at the book and they'll ask questions. But no, there's no document that's created by any town I know of. You know, maybe the big ones like Portland and Bangor do it, but I'm not sure. They don't create a document that says, let's redo the capital plan in each year and put down what was done. It's not something that's done.
Well,
I feel like
it should be. I feel like it needs to be.
Well, that could be a new project that's added on, but
Let's not pretend that it's a astronomical thing that, there's not that many line items. It wouldn't take that long to go through and say what you did and didn't do for this stuff.
Mm-hmm. If that's something you want to start for the current CIP, we can do that.
Yes, I think that's a good idea, Catherine. Even if it's just that you add a column next to, like if it was 2014 allocated and then 2014 actual.
I think I would probably create a different document just to make it easier.
I would do like you said, have different line, have a different column and say whether it was complete or not complete. 'Cause
Yeah,
if it's
but
not
this-
complete, then we know it still needs to be complete, and now it's shifted from, say, 2020 to 2021.
Yeah, your document's already huge anyway, you'd be adding in, you know, if there's 10 years, you'd be adding in 10 columns. It would make a cumbersome document. It would be easier just to do a list.
I'd like to see it in this format though, Catherine.
Yeah, I mean, Excel can do a lot.
That
so
way, I mean, even if you don't
think
wanna
it's
do
all
it
that
in the
complex.
same table and you wanna do a separate table,
We
but
can do a
have
separate
it
table.
exactly listed like this. But instead of it saying just the improvement plan, it's the actual allocations.
Yeah, I think that would be fine, but
And then I can take, you know, we could take that Excel sheet and compare it to this Excel sheet.
that is a doable item.
Okay.
Yeah, because,
That would be good. Thank you, Catherine.
I mean, if we allocated, say we allocated $300,000 to buy a truck in 2020 or 2018, and we never did,
Yeah.
where'd that allocation of money go? Like, we set aside that money,
Well, what
where,
happens?
where was it spent otherwise?
So the monies that are set aside are spent, or they're put in a reserve account, but those that are the fire trucks and the paving that are loans, if you decide not to do the loan, there's no money. So the money is not someplace, it's no place.
Well, I
because
mean,
you
people pay
decided not to
taxes
do
for
it.
roads, right?
Yeah, if the council decides not to do a project, then there is no money for it, there's no
Right,
money
but
that we get.
There's always I mean, you're taxing people for roads, right?
Mhm.
So there has to obviously be, there's always allocation for roads.
Not
It
all-
doesn't necessarily matter about,
That's actually fairly new that we've required that allocation.
Yeah,
for
it's
roads.
not
They've
always, no.
so you tax people for roads, but, just to use them, I guess.
Yeah, but if you add up the cost of the summer highway and winter highway without paving, you're already taking care of all the monies that you get from the state that you have to spend on your roads, and you are taxing them for that, but you're not taxing them for the loan that you didn't get. You know, it's up to the council, if they don't feel comfortable getting a loan in a particular year, which as we know, was the decision of the council last year for, you know, reasonable reasons, then you just wouldn't get the loan, so you're not taxing anybody for it. So
Yeah.
this is pretty much the history.
The
So,
actuals need to happen now, I agree with Amanda on that.
all right, let's go to the water sewer. So what you want to do is skip through the papers until you get to water sewer, which is a blue cover sheet that says water sewer enterprise fund under number 7. So you would move forward through the capital plan, and there will be a blue sheet that says water sewer.
Whoosh.
Yep, keep on going.
Yeah, it's white on the edge.
Yeah, it's
Jason.
thicker paper,
It looks like this.
yes.
Got it. Thanks.
All right, good. So water sewer enterprise fund, the town did not have a capital improvement plan for water sewer. So that took a couple of years to put together because we didn't even have enough money to do maintenance in the beginning. So we had to get the water sewer, the testing devices and the meters straightened out. So the water sewer plan has 2 spreadsheets that come out. So the first spreadsheet, 11 by 17, is for the water enterprise fund. And so a lot of these projects are done. We paid off some old loans, which is the first one. The Grove Hill Water new surface source was taken care of.
Thank you.
The Grove Hill standing painting, we allocated money each year for that. Also for the Phillips standpipe petition and painting, that was allocated each year. We replaced a truck, that's number 4. Number 5 is new water meters for proper revenue sources, so we did that because we had to have one type of meter. You had like 5 or 6 types of meters and they didn't work well, there were always complaints. And so to raise more revenue and to upgrade the water rates. We had to have proper meters. We replaced another vehicle, that's number 6. Number 7, we did the backup water pump. That was a necessity. In case your pump broke down or something happened, there was no backup. So that was a necessity, and we got a low interest loan and had 1/3 of the cost written off by the state of Maine. We did the Waverly River crossing. That was a difficult project. There were a lot of issues with drilling underneath the bridge. And then at this point, several of these projects have not yet been completed. The standpipe painting is a complex project, and the staff never felt comfortable doing it. Now that we have all of our associates, that will help. The replacement of 28 isolation valves, although we would like to do that, the state of Maine does not provide money for isolation valves. You would think they would, because why do you want to turn off 5 roads when you can turn off 1 and take care of a problem and only inconvenience the people on that 1 road when you fix it? But the state does not provide low interest loans for that. They will not fund it. So we still have that on the list.
That sounds like that needs to change.
I know. That made no sense to us. Number 11, equipment upgrade for the excavator. We did purchase an excavator shared by water, sewer, and highway, housed at highway. The Honeywell replace and redundancy. This is a massive project that we tried to put in through the Northern Border grant, but once all the paperwork came out on what you can and can't do, it did not qualify, so we didn't go forward with that. But that would allow you to have redundancy so that if something happened to the one way that the water comes in from the treatment plant, you would be able to switch off and send the water down to Honeywell across some of the town property and Chimbrow property. They were agreeable to that at one time. So that would give us redundancy, and we would also rebuild the water line on Honeywell, which in places is only a 2-inch line, and that's not good for, industrial properties. But this is a large project. The council did get, we were fortunate, we did get approval of this, but we got approval for this when we got North Main Street, where we replaced the line that had over 30 breaks. And so we couldn't do both projects. It was just too much depth to have at one time. And so far, we haven't qualified again for that. The North Main Street to Grove Hill, we did do that project. And then the rest of these projects have not been done simply because of the cost of everything and the fact that we do need to increase the debt service. I will also say that State of Maine will not fund through the low interest loan replacing the 50 hydrants or 20 hydrants. They will only pay for a hydrant if it's with a main. So if you were replacing a main and there were 5 hydrants along it, you can include that in your loan package. So of course we would like to fix all the hydrants, so we went off and did that ourselves and replaced about 12 hydrants, and the next hydrant project is on Main Street to get those done before the Maine DOT comes through. So we are studying a few of the costs for these projects for a new water sewer capital plan, which I'm working on with all of our associates. So we're going to make a new one and leave the rest for the history here. The next chart for the history, which also includes some projects for the future, is the Sewer Enterprise Fund. So that's your 11 by 17. And so a lot of these projects were done again. This one has quite a few done. The last payment for the old loans, I listed as 0 because it's not really a project. We paid those off. We did the sewer separation for Summer Street. That was a project we did by ourselves internally. We had an engineer help us a bit. When we got up to Summer Street, in places the whole line was totally deteriorated. There had been problems up there for years, and so it was good to fix that. We did sewer revitalization. We did 4 partial lines, including West Street, a section on Main Street where the sewer was backing up and going onto the road and onto people's property, and 2 other locations were fixed. We also did those projects by ourselves. This is before we had all of our associates. So those worked out good. Sludge removal, we did that project. And then we did an evaluation of the system. That was done. Nichols Street was completed, number 5. Number 6, Chinquette Avenue had the sewer main redone. Number 7, Livingston Street was done. Number 8, Somerset Avenue was done. Number 9, Elm School and Cross Country was done. Cross Country was a difficult one. Number 10, Franklin and Main Street. We had a section of Main Street and Franklin that was done at the same time. And then Davis, we went down to Stinson Street. These were done separately and were problematic projects that had small sections of the sewer that needed to be fixed. The sludge removal engineering was done. All the legal work for USDA was done. Number 14, Peltoma Avenue section was done. Number 15, the sewer flow study was done, but it was done as a totally different project. We only did that in a special way. We did not go out and spend the $2 million. We did it the Oliver Associates way here, which did work. We also did North Main to Waverly. And so after that, there's several projects that have not been done. I did have Harrison looked at for the, to make sure there weren't sewer issues on it. There is a section of Harrison which Oliver Associates said you can pave over it. It needs to be relined in a section that can be done without hurting the pavement. So they said just go forward and do the paving. Everything else that we're going to do is in very good shape. And then Chinquette and Franklin, depending on how much we can get done, those were new sewer replacements, so there's absolutely no issue, according to Oliver, in paving over that at all.
So mostly for water and sewer, we're gonna lean pretty heavily on Oliver to tell us what's needed, when it's needed,
Yes.
how much it's gonna cost and all that
Yes.
stuff.
Yes.
It's not really something. And then, will they then give kind of a comprehensive file, kind of like this,
So we do have a
completely kind of updated?
We have a comprehensive study that was done of the areas that are leaking, where the lines have too much water coming in that
No.
creates issues at the treatment plant. So we fixed enough of the areas to take care of that, but there's still more.
Right.
There was a $9 million plan that was put together.
But they're gonna give us like a 10-year, say, capital improvement.
Like high priority areas we have to fix.
Capital
and then-
improvement of water and sewer going from now until.
We're working on that. The order will be based upon what Oliver thinks and also what the town thinks. They're more leaning toward water right now. The sewer is in pretty good shape. I mean, there's areas that need to be fixed, but all of the water that was pouring out when you had big storms, and I remember the year that the manholes started popping off, there was too much water in the system. We don't have that anymore because we took so much water out from doing all these projects. So they're gonna lean on the water system, where there's items that they have found need to be fixed.
Right.
Are we also going to, in that plan, Catherine, look at what roads are priority roads for paving that need water and sewer done underneath them?
Yes, and we have a list of those, but there are more. That's the list that the engineer has agreed to cut out most of the changes that they wanted and go with the regular contract. We made a few changes that they wanted. So that was signed, and the projects will be in by June 30th with budget figures.
Okay.
So yes, and so Oliver will have that. Now, there are more roads that would be priority 2, which I've got like a priority 2 list that I've been working on. So they'll look at that too.
Okay.
So, kind of while we're on that topic, no, we brought in Oliver Associates to manage kind of our water and sewer problems and give us advice, and we lean on them, and they kind of, we use their expertise. If you look around town, the roads are pretty awful. They've been neglected or are well behind as far as maintaining them, upgrading them, all that stuff. Is there a way that we can bring in, say, a contractor of some type or a engineering company to assess all the roads, tell us, yep, this one needs this one needs that, we need to rip all that out, and then give us like kind of a 10-year comprehensive plan of, okay, this is where we need to be and this is where we are, and you know, 1 or 2 roads a year is just not gonna cut it. Like we're well beyond that. So, I mean, I feel like we need somebody with expertise to get us going in the right direction for all the roads. And somebody kind of like the Oliver Associates did for our water and sewer.
All right.
Is that something that we can do or look into and see how much we can pay some company to come in and give us that?
So we've already done that on a major list of roads, and so we're gonna get that information shortly, on the high priority roads that need to be fixed, the worst ones. And then we can bid out another project to do, or talk to that engineer who is very busy, to see if they could look at some more roads. But to find a company that actually does that, it's not like Oliver Associates, they run the water and sewer plants because they have the technical expertise on staff, and they have a large group of employees, so they found a niche. So they have like 20 towns that they work with. There isn't a civil engineering company that does that in the state that I know about.
There you go, Jason. Get one started.
Pardon?
I was telling him to get one started.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have, not to offend any, I just don't have the confidence that we'll be able to get where we need to be with the roads. They're just, they're so far gone, and I just don't think, I don't know, I feel like we need somebody else to manage or give us that type of plan, because we're, I don't know, in some cases, I think we're 10, 15 years behind when the road should have been fixed.
Yeah, they were behind when I came.
Well, I mean, I'm not,
No, and we got caught up, and we did really well, but then the paving costs went from like $22 up to $110, and then everybody was scared and the road started going bad everywhere.
those costs aren't going down, so.
I know.
They are not.
It just depends on how much money you want to borrow, and, you know, I can understand why councils would balk at borrowing money. You borrow, but we had the ability to pay back like 6 or 7 years from the Pittsfield Future Fund, so that was relatively easy. But even doing another loan, you know, I understand why councils would not want to borrow all that money, because you're going to pay it back. So maybe
Catherine,
there's some other way to do this.
under the ARPA funds that are coming out, that municipalities will be eligible to apply for a certain amount, are we including fixing our roads in that?
All right, is this you've got a different name than I know, is this the stimulus money that's coming from?
The American Rescue Plan.
Okay, all right, I know, it's got like 8 different names now. So, just so that you know, the fire department has requested the air packs, so that's about $104,000. The backup generator is supposed to be used for water, sewer, public safety type things, and other things.
I think the generator is definitely a priority.
I think that's a priority.
But I would pick the roads
Mhm.
over the air packs, because we can replace those slowly as we need to.
Yeah, so the roads can definitely be included. They do favor water, sewer, public safety, broadband.
Yeah.
We'll read through the instructions.
I think the roads are at a point where it is a public safety problem.
I agree. I agree. It's causing damage
There's
to
so much-
vehicles and stuff like that as well.
Dangerous in the wintertime.
So I can look around to see if there's a firm that would do something that major. We had Derigo come in the 1990s to do a plan for the town, which was implemented like from 92 up to 99. And several roads, a lot of roads were rebuilt, but now they should have been good, but now they're in a bad state. You know, and they were totally rebuilt. West Street was rebuilt, and look at it now. Crawford Road was rebuilt, and look at it now. You know, you have to wonder, is the rebuilding going to work?
Catherine, can you remind me in that plan that we sent out to the engineering firm,
Yes,
did we include Birchwood Terrace area?
we did, yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I have all those.
I know that's a huge concern area for them.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
Birchwood Terrace, is that Forest Park?
It is.
Okay. So we have to work those two together though, cause
Yeah.
I see Forest Park's on here for water mains.
Yeah, yes, that all has to be
Right.
coordinated. So, for the work that the engineering firm is doing, which is a lot for them, they have Forest Park area, so they have Hamilton Terrace, Birchwood Terrace, Maple Terrace, Hemlock Terrace, Arbor Terrace, because they're all going downhill at the same time, one is worse than the other. This is for infrastructure, so it's the drainage, the road construction, probably being all reconstructed. I don't see grinding is gonna do it.
No.
There's an issue underneath the road, it's pretty clear.
Well, plus they have to be able to do the sidewalks.
Yeah, there's paving, sidewalks, water, sewer.
There's no sidewalks.
There's significant problems with
There's
the water.
pretend
up there.
sidewalks that are not ADA compliant, and so they have to be fixed.
In Forest Park?
In the Birchwood Terrace, yeah, I walk that area all the time. There's one coming from Main Street, Somerset Avenue,
Mhm.
that continues up and it kind of disappears under people's yards.
Yes, I know.
But it does exist.
Yeah, it's not on all the roads, it
No.
goes in, it starts with the sidewalk, they were supposed to have sidewalks, but it never was done. So all of these need to be looked at. There are significant wires under the road too, so this is a massive project. Then we have West Street, which had been reconstructed before, but needs to be done again. That was done in the 90s.
I remember when
Library
that was done.
Street, which has everything there, drainage, sidewalk, water, sewer, paving. It needs reconstruction. Connor Street out here needs reconstruction. That went overnight. That was a street that was in great shape, and then all of a sudden over that winter, it just sunk down and then came up and now it's bumpy.
Yeah.
Library Street doesn't stop flooding either, every time we get one of these microburst things.
Oh, yeah, at the beginning of it, yeah. The fire chief went down, we were talking, because when we were out with all the trees down, he went down and unplugged that. It unplugs easily, but this culvert's not big enough.
Yeah, you'll see people take their shoes off and go in there with their feet to pull it off, and I'm so afraid that somebody's gonna cut themselves on glass or something.
Yeah, that whole thing needs to be fixed. It needs to be drained properly, which is a larger issue than one would think. Sebastopol Street has the second culvert that needs to be replaced. We did one and lined it. That worked out really well. The price was expensive, but the company did a really good job. School Street was put on here simply because the area by the school has drainage issues. There's humps in the road, there's sunken areas. The sidewalk is not in good shape. Crawford Road Bridge. This is the Mosher Bridge that has abutment issues. And then there is the major drainage runoff. Steve had listed it as that. That is the Farman Brook that runs through town, that was dug out and contoured so that the water and drainage could go through the town instead of flooding everybody. So that is a project. We're having trouble finding information on that. I gave the engineer a packet of information I found and a map, diagram. It doesn't look quite like it is, but they've got some information now. It took a while to find that. Spring Road has
Where are you reading
I'm
That's
working,
on her plan.
yeah, I'm working on a list that we gave to the engineer that,
I was just clarifying what roads were on the engineer's list.
and the last one on there is Spring Road. That has significant infrastructure issues, and that was reconstructed too, professionally in places. So those are the master list, the big priority one, and I already have a priority 2 list for reconstruction too. And then you've got roads you can grind that will work out fine. Then you have roads you can pave. So you sort of have 4 categories of roads. So to get back to the Morris sewer list, there are a few projects remaining on here and then some new ones here. But all of our associates will concentrate on the water infrastructure. So to go to the current plan now, that's under tab 6. And the current plan under tab 6 totals approximately $22,852. And then we've got some history from 2019 and 20. But under tab 6, once you go in a few pages, you'll see the first 4 pages are the current plan. And the current plan is listed as 5-year capital improvement plan for 2021 to 2025. And then you've got 10 more years. The charter requires only 5 years, but so that we could plan some projects out and so that we could get ahead and look at different items, we did put more years in. Everybody has the ability to list projects for the next 10 years, the next 5 years, so you have 10 years. So in 2021, we've got all our projects listed here. I don't think we need to go down through them, but most of them are being done, except your fire truck has not been approved for loan as of yet. This is the same thing that normally happens. The loans don't get approved because of the worry of having debt service and paying it back, which is understandable to worry about.
We're not doing the public works.
Yeah, you've also got the 1989 Ford dump truck, that hasn't been approved either. And you didn't do the
Shim and overlay.
shim and overlay, you decided not to do that this year. But these other projects will get done by the end of the year.
We are putting away money each year for paving, right? Where is that on this?
Yeah, some of the
What's that?
monies are being put away, and so those are in the reserve accounts at our Bar Harbor Trust. And you remember we used to have that big spreadsheet, and now I just do a total sheet.
Is there a way to somehow include in this so that we know, because, I mean, I know we're talking about capital improvement as in this fire truck costs, or two, yeah, that's just one fire truck, oh my God, $575,000 for one truck. I feel like we could be saying, well, we know it's gonna cost that, so as part of our capital improvement plan, we're going to put away a certain amount each year.
You can do that if you
That's
wish.
what
Instead of just putting 2021, the whole 575,000, because oh my God.
That's what Bernie was saying when he presented there, well, 2 months ago, whatever.
I think that will help
We're-
with looking at this too. When it comes budget time, we're going, okay, well, we know the truck costs this much, but we can't spend that much in 1 year, so let's say 100,000 away a year for 5 years or something, just something, some kind of plan.
No, that's fine. The way that the departments will usually put those in, except for Donnie, he'll put it in over a number of years. The others usually put in the whole lump sum in 1 year, so I just transpose what they put in into the capital plan, but I can give them directions to plan it over a number of years so we actually get it.
Let's
I
do
mean,
that,
I guess
and do
that's-
that for the breathing apparatuses too, because that
Yes.
should be an ongoing thing,
Yes,
not a.
yes, it should be.
I think that's more up to us than, they just tell us how much it is, and we determine how it's.
Well,
How
they
it
should
takes
be
one.
planning for how much in their budget, and so
Right.
they could
Oh,
say in their
yeah.
budget, $20,000 per year toward whatever.
No, I agree with Amanda, that's a better way to do it.
Yeah. And then it goes
As long
into
as
a
somebody's
reserve,
keeping
and
track
they
of
pull it
that.
out when they need it.
Right. So, is the police department getting a $45,000 cruiser this year?
They did get a cruiser, and that's,
Is that double?
the additional is the cost to outfit everything.
Well,
It may
and-
not be that total, it may be a little bit less.
And that's a
No, but they've
required,
got that
They
cruiser.
got the cruiser.
that's a required thing we have to do too. Every so many years, we have to replace them. Is that correct, Catherine?
Yeah, you
That's
get
up to the
one
town.
every year for,
Yeah,
and it
that's up to the
and it
town.
survives 5 years.
That's why I came tonight to talk about that,
Oh, okay.
about adding cruisers to the capital budget
Right.
to expand it.
So that would be up to you when you get your capital improvement plan sheets and you get your budget sheets to put that into the plan and ask for that.
So you would be looking at doing what, Pete?
Well, one of my proposals for recruiting was to try to give each officer their own cruisers. That's a big thing with officers. And it also increases public safety and better response times if there's an emergency. So, and I had said to him, do it over time, over 2 or 3 years. We're not gonna go out and buy 3 or 4 cruisers or
Right.
whatever it would be in 1 year.
Right.
And we wouldn't be buying all brand new cruisers to everyone. People would get hand-me-downs and stuff. But, so that was the idea, was to giving a cruiser to each officer, as an incentive, as another carrot to try to come here and work.
So you're thinking, in looking at this, right now it's budgeted for 1 per year for 4 years and then a 5th year off.
Right.
So you're looking at making it 2 per year?
Well, I haven't thought it all out,
Okay.
but it would be probably like that, 2 a year.
Okay.
Because right now, how many, we have?
4.
We have 4,
Yeah. We
and
have-
then you have 1?
That includes mine,
Oh, it includes you?
yeah.
So 3 of the larger vehicles, and then he has the smaller
The
one.
cruiser, yeah.
And that's only because it was a leftover.
Right,
My cruiser is in bad shape, actually.
yeah,
Like, like tonight it happened. I never know when it's gonna happen.
right,
A few weeks ago, what'll happen is I'll go to, like I turned on Heartland Avenue tonight and I started to give it a little gas and it dies, it completely dies. And I have to turn it off and let it sit for like a minute or so and then I'll start it back up and then it'll go. About a few weeks ago, it happened to me out on the interstate. I made a left-hand turn onto the crossover, and then I went across the crossover, and then I turned left to go. Then the traffic was coming down, and I gave it the gas, and it just died right in the middle of the passing lane. I was like, holy, what? I hit my blue lights. So that's.
I'd say you want to get that checked
Yeah,
out.
but
Yeah,
I
it's,
think you need to bring that up to the shop.
So who has
It's
checked the
something that's-
vehicle out for
It's
you?
something that's gonna have to, my cruiser's the oldest one in the fleet anyway, so.
When's the last time that was checked and by who?
Yeah, you should check that out.
Yeah.
You can
Well,
go to Barnes.
I think it's gonna be a significant repair. That's why I've been trying to get by the year.
Well, we should find out. I mean,
Yeah.
If it's not safe to drive, we should.
Yeah.
No, we really don't want you getting
Yeah.
hit.
It's not sometimes, but
Hmm.
anyway, so back to yours is
All right.
probably a couple of years.
So going back into this 2021 budget, if a $60,000 work truck for the public works, they just got one last year, right?
Yeah.
Or that's water and sewer?
Yeah, that was water and sewer. They got one the year before. So this truck has not been approved yet,
Oh, okay.
but they're starting to inquire about it. Timmy has asked about it. I said we would have to talk to the council and see if we're gonna put bid specs together.
Did we approve it in the budget as a line item?
It's approved, but it doesn't have funding attached. It's a loan. It's one
Yeah,
of the
I
loan
see.
items.
It was one of the loans,
Yeah,
okay.
the trucks are usually the loans.
right. I don't know what work trucks costing 60 grand.
I think they'd be looking at a heavy-duty truck.
Yeah, it's the outfitting. and stuff
Utility
that go
type,
along with it.
heavy duty.
That water truck was not cheap that we did either.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Plus, now you can't even get vehicles.
I
know,
Because
I
the
know.
chips are gone.
Exactly. Culverts, paint, it's crazy.
Yeah, and they're talking about this shortage of the reflective paint, but how many times are they painting the stupid highway lines? Because they keep grinding it up and painting
I
and
know.
tarring back over it? Like, way to reserve
I know, we
stuff.
tried to get some from the state and they said they just didn't have any. Luckily, we had enough to do the major crosswalk.
Catherine, I can't tell you how excited I was to see that done in the spring and not in the fall right before we start plowing again.
No, I agree. We always did that in the spring for decades and then it got changed 6 years ago. So we're going back to spring.
I'm so glad, because it's after the winter, you can't see any of that.
Yeah.
It was so awesome to go through town and go, there's a visible sidewalk, or crosswalk.
Yeah, you would do them in spring. That's what I've always done at other towns, and we did here for a long time. We would do them in spring because that's when everybody's out walking and the students are out. And then by the time, if you did them in fall, then it's wasting the paint basically. All right, so these are our projects, and then we've got other projects scheduled. And then what happens when the papers go out for the capital requests in August, the departments will submit other items that get inputted into like 2022, 2023, 24, 25, and then into the other 5 years beyond. So we're required to have a 5-year plan only, which is a plan. It doesn't mean everything gets done. And then we've got an extra 5 years, so we basically have a 10-year plan.
Catherine, that water pump generator, we did approve that in the budget this year, right? We didn't say it had to be a loan. Do I remember that correctly? Or did we say that needed to be a loan?
All right, that is not part of the, there's a pump, a backup pump that was done on the capital plan years ago, 2009. So this backup generator was something that came up after the budget was put together and started, we used to just borrow one if we needed one, but you only needed one like twice in almost 20 years. And then in December, we couldn't get the water back on and it was off for a long period of time.
Yeah.
And then it's happened like 3 or 4 times since then. So that
So that was
created the
December that
backup
happened.
generator being needed.
And Oliver didn't we get a good price on that?
We did get a good price, we don't have the money for it, so we're trying to, if the stimulus money comes through, that's what we should use some of it for.
Absolutely.
Yes, I thought that was a number one item.
I agree.
Because it was lower than this 50,000.
Yes.
Yes, it was. That's why I was asking that question, because I remember them saying something.
So that bid has to be accepted by the end of July unless we get an extension. So hopefully the stimulus money will come through before then. All right, so that's your plan, and then you've got all your background behind that. And we can skip past that. And then go to your sheets which explain things out. You have 72 sheets that explain out each project. This is the information that the departments provide. And so we put it all together with the plans that they have on how it should be funded. And so those 72 sheets match up on the numbers to the chart. And then after that is debt service, which I think is important to mention. We've got another attachment that says Town of Pittsfield current debt service details years 2002 to 2040. And so in here is all of the debt service of the town, which to make it easy for you, I brought the audit down. And we basically have $4.3 million of debt. We can have 25% of our valuation, but we don't want that. That's what cities usually have, and you don't want that much debt.
So what are we at? I'm sorry, Catherine, I heard you.
Yep, so you have a section of debt service that says current debt service details, and it has payoff debt. It's a thicker sheet.
Yeah, I got that part, but I meant on percentage-wise. Where are we at debt-wise?
About 8%.
8%.
And that will change next
Where?
year. Yeah, you got it right there, debt service. So in here are all the amortization charts. You didn't have that when I came, so I figured that was helpful for me too. And so all of our debt is in there so you can see it. So we did get the state valuation estimate for 2022. And so our state valuation, according to the inspection that took place, will go up $20 million, which is good.
But not good for our school budget.
It will affect the school budget and county in 2 years. So there's like a grace period when we do well, and then we get hit on state revenue sharing too.
And that increases because of the Puritan plans?
Yes.
How's that going to change with them not opening the third plant?
Right now, the state has looked through things, and that the Puritan plants, as well as other development that's taken place, which is minor, they have added $20 million to our valuation for next year. So that's what they see from what's been built to date.
And it's because of what's built, not necessarily because it's operational?
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
So even if they don't run plant 3,
Mhm.
the
That's fine.
valuation's still there because?
Yes, it is, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, Plan 3 would be nice. I thought that was probably gonna take a while. So this is pretty much all of your capital information, and you've got a water, and sewer charts back here too, which we don't have to go through all of that. So what I will do is create a new document, starting with the 2021 for your 2022 budget that shows exactly what we spent, and then we'll do that from now on and have another spreadsheet. I'll separate out your history. I mean, I like this because I have everything together. Anybody comes in, I can show it to them. The auditor really likes it. But we're more the finance people. So for the public and for you all, I will separate out all history in one part of the book, and then just have all future in one part of the book.
Thank you, Catherine.
So that's pretty much all of our capital plans. And then for the projects for the future, I thought we could brainstorm on that. I've got road projects, which right now we're getting the engineering figures for the estimates for capital improvement planning for the 11 projects that were given to the engineer. We'll
Which
have
firm did
those
we go with again, Catherine?
by June 30th.
No, which firm?
That would be Plymouth Engineering.
Thank you.
Yeah, and this is a major project for us. So if we're going to do all the other roads, we're gonna have to bid that out. I have to do some checking on what firm will be available. I've called firms looking for help on some projects, and everybody is really backed up. There aren't a lot of engineers in this area. But I've also got a list of roads that would need to be ground and then paved. I've got a list of roads that can be paved. So we've got 3 listing of roads that I've divided those out. And then I've got a list of building projects for some of the buildings. But in order to really review the buildings, you need a civil engineer to go through and do a structural review of all of your buildings. That's something that Donnie and I can go through and make lists, but our view is more safety orientated. Yeah, I have a list of work that's scheduled for the municipal building, and I have quotes that we're still waiting for. The glass issue we had upstairs is affecting the glass that we need out front. I don't know why there's a shortage on glass, but there seems to be. Definitely. And I have listings from other staff members of projects to do. We need to work on the swimming pool. That has done well, and we've done a few items there, but that should be a focus too. There's a couple of cracks there. So there's a whole variety of capital projects that we'll be putting information together on. And then, of course, all of our associates will be doing the water and sewer with myself. And we'll make one chart that lists all the projects in priority order, and then we'll have a page for each project that has the estimate, and then it has the description. Just like all of our associates does this the same way we do. They just use a different form.
Catherine, with the roads too, you said some could be paved and some could be ground. Do you have a list that just says these would be fine if we just did crack sealing?
They're probably,
Those roads don't exist.
I think at this point, they'd have to be paved after the crack sealing, within a year or so, a couple of years.
I mean, they do the cold patch stuff. They're doing
Well,
that
I'm
now.
more thinking of the sealing of the cracks to prevent the moisture from going down,
Yes.
freezing and expanding, and then you've got what we have up here that just boom, exploded because of a couple of cracks in the
Yeah, all you need is one winter or 2 winters, and then the road is,
Yeah.
seriously deteriorated.
Now, with the swimming pool, do we know what extent of cost we're looking at for that? Because if there's something with the swimming pool, we should be doing fundraising this summer. Instead
That's something that we would need to have a civil engineer look at that. I mean, the staff and I can look at it, but that's a specialty item. Klein Smith did work for us, and they had to learn how to put bid specs together for a swimming pool. They were very, very helpful. It's a donation project. But we would need a swimming pool company to look at it. And the one that put the swimming pool in doesn't seem to exist anymore.
Of course not. But could we, I know that there are really strict rules municipality-wise about fundraising for things, but can we do a fundraising account for the swimming pool?
Certainly, yes. And we do have, we have some money left over from, a little bit over $2,000 that is left over from the original project for repairs to the swimming pool. It will be more than that because there are 2 cracks now.
So could we start setting up fundraising even though we don't know how much we need yet? And start knowing that it's coming? And start fundraising? Or do we have to have an amount in order to fundraise? I don't know the rules on that.
We don't need to have an amount, but we'll do better if we have an amount because people will then know exactly what they're donating toward.
Yeah, a good description of what you're actually doing.
Yes, a good description of what we would do. So that's where we would need somebody to come in. I've contacted several, this is where I've been calling the civil engineers, and everybody's backed up on projects and nobody's an expert on swimming pools. They will do some road projects, but not all of our roads. So we may have to do a bid.
All right, thank you, Catherine.
But we'll be on our way with the 11 projects, the ones that really need the work the most.
You have those lists? The
Yes.
category 1, category 2 roads that are
Yes,
needed,
and
not.
you'll have that in final form in July, for your July meeting. That's when the whole plan for a highway is supposed to be put together, which I volunteered to do. That was Steve's project.
Right.
Does Heather have any questions?
Heather, did you have any questions? There's 2 Heathers here.
She fell asleep on the road?
I'm actually having a really hard time hearing anything. So no, I'm just trying to follow on as best as possible.
Can you hear myself? Because I'm right here by the computer.
Everything's really echoey.
Okay, she's got an echo.
I think just because the type of mic we have, it's just picking up every little thing, but it's very echoey, so it's hard to make out what people are actually saying.
Okay. All right, well, we'll have the tapes of the meeting so you could listen to it while you're doing something else. I'll make a list of all the items that we talked about. So if you have other projects that you're interested in, let me know because we'll want to start exploring them now.
Will you give us the list of the buildings and stuff that you've identified as well, you and Donnie?
Yeah.
So we can see that? I mean, especially Donnie's definitely good at spotting safety issues.
Yeah, ours is safety orientated, it's not structural, so that's something, the buildings are all older now, we should do that. I know I had the building inspector go through this building and, he didn't find any issues, but there's a couple of things that I see that you have to wonder, there's a big crack now. But he said it wasn't an issue, but maybe we should have a structural engineer look at these things early on.
What about like the stairs for the police department?
I thought that they worked on those.
Did those get fixed?
We've requested, I just talked to Mike about it today. We've only had, we were requested to get 3 bids, and we've only got 1, and that's been, I don't know, 2 or 3 months.
Well, that's okay. If you can't get them, then you
as
go
long as
with
you
what
made
you
an effort.
have.
That's what I told
Unless
them.
it's outrageous. Yeah, which sometimes they are. But sometimes you just can't get the bids. The contractors are so busy. I've been trying to get bids since March from the industrial services that will do work here, concrete work. You can't get any concrete people. So if he, once I finally get his quotation, and he promised I'll have it tomorrow, once I finally get that, hopefully it'll be a reasonable price, but we're not gonna get any other quotes. There's nobody out there.
Yeah, I think the law just requires that you make a good faith effort.
We tried, yeah,
Yeah.
everybody's tried. Yeah, we've tried in recreation for some things, we've tried in highway. If it just doesn't exist, we just, do the best we can.
Plus, I'm sure the stairs are considered a small small peon project for most contractors right now.
Yes.
They wouldn't even want it.
We're trying just to get trusses delivered.
I understand that. Yes, I've heard about that. We hear about these things from the building inspector. You know, you feel bad for the people trying to build houses. It's really difficult.
Mm-hmm.
All right, anything else you wanted to discuss on capital projects? Anything you want to check into?
No, not in capital projects, but I do want to hear more about the police thing. Just so that we can catch up
Pardon me, about what?
on the police, the recruitment efforts
Okay.
that we had talked about in April.
yeah. Close the loop on that.
Yes.
All right, I don't have my paperwork with me because it wasn't on the agenda, so you all can talk about it.
I have an extra copy.
That'd be
I wrote up the notes from the meeting and the decisions that the committee recommended and provided that to the police chief. So there were some items that were good and other items that people felt were not sustainable.
So where it says not approved in here, Catherine, does that mean that the labor, what is it called? What's that?
Yeah, the police negotiation committee.
Yeah, that means that they said no.
They said no, they did not approve those.
And
then
it
there was
looks like
a
the
number
only
of-
reason that they said no, like for the bonus thing, as an example, was because there would be additional costs.
Additional costs, and people said it wasn't sustainable.
Well, we're not looking to sustain it, are we? We're just looking to hire people.
Right, but you would have to do the bonus each year. I mean, once people get used to the money.
I don't think,
Well,
it's called a sign-on bonus, so you don't
Yeah,
have to
it's a
keep
sign-on
doing it.
bonus, it's not a
I mean, you've got,
$10,000 bonus every year you work.
McDonald's is offering sign-on bonuses for people to come work. I mean, that's how
Right.
desperate people are.
And,
But it's just a sign-on, it's not a continuation.
Right, but there's retainage bonuses and,
well, we're not,
We
I
don't
mean, that's
want a
a
retainer
that's a
bonus.
separate idea.
Totally separate idea, but to try to get people started.
This one idea is a $10,000 bonus for a certified full-time officer, which according to the chief last meeting, said if we got a certified officer, it would
That would save us.
save
money.
us, not really cost us anything, because he's gotta put non-certified officers through training and everything else. So big picture, you're actually saving money, not
Or at least equaling out.
at a minimum, I would say probably
How much does
saving.
the academy cost for us to pay if you have somebody who has no training?
$3,000 per student.
So it would be more, so 3,000.
But
Well, no, I thought you said,
it's, well,
There's all
that's how
kinds
much the academy costs.
Right,
right,
That's what you asked me, but I
Yeah.
think what you're really asking me is, how much does it cost?
how
So
much does it cost for a guy starting out to become a certified full-time officer?
It's gonna cost, I think approximately $40,000 to $50,000. Whereas if I could
just to get them
office,
trained.
get them
To a certified,
to become a certified officer,
right,
they have to go to the academy for 18 weeks. Then the main Chiefs of Police Association standard for field training after that, the minimum is 300 hours.
right.
That's another couple of months at least. So you're talking $40,000 to $50,000. That's why I said if we could wag a carrot out there and offer a $10,000 bonus, which if you look on the Maine Criminal Justice Academy website, like I mentioned back in April,
Mhm.
you can go on there and see that there's departments from Fort Kent to Kittery that are doing this. It's not just departments down in Portland or Westbrook or those bigger departments. So that would be a huge savings to the town. As far as the retention bonuses, it's all how it's written up. And
Right.
it would be a one-time thing. It would not be a yearly
It's more just
stipend
for your current officers
Right.
that are not leaving.
to get them to stay.
So that they don't leave and go get somebody else's
Correct.
sign-on bonus.
Correct.
So in your paperwork, you indicated that in future years, the retainage bonuses would be up to you whether you would give them out. So that would have to be taken out and make it clear that retainage is 1 year.
That's fine. But we just need to talk about it.
Yeah, these are all just ideas.
These were just ideas, and at the last meeting, you all asked me to go out
Yeah.
and to talk to the officers and get their ideas.
Yeah.
I did. I talked to all my officers. I talked to the reserve officers. I talked to chiefs from other departments. So
Right.
these are, like I said in the thing, these are all ideas.
I can tell you last week, Catherine, too, and the week before and the week before that, when I was in the State House, this is a problem
Oh, it is a problem.
everywhere, and everybody's trying to come up with ways. And if we don't do something to compete with these departments, we're never gonna find people to fill the positions. Was it $18,000 someone is offering for sign-on?
Yeah.
Paid over a certain amount, because
Yeah.
that's how desperate they are for employees.
And the other thing with what you just said is, my proposal for the sign-on was, just say somebody walks in the door tomorrow, because if we waved the carrot, we advertised it, and a certified guy from Winslow or wherever, Bangor, says, hey, I'll take the 10,000. My proposal is we give them $5,000 this year, in
Right.
this budget,
Yeah.
and then next year, in January, we give them the other 5,000. So I'm saving a ton of money. So I'm being very fiscally responsible here, because I'm trying to save the town money. And I wish I could have gone to this other committee meeting to tell them what I'm saying now, because it's very fiscally responsible. And I'm trying to look out for the town and trying to get quality people to attract and retain, because I told all of you the last meeting, I can get anybody to hire.
Right.
I can get people who are, but they're not gonna be the quality officers that you want. But the idea here is to try to attract a certified officer, as many as we can. It's tough, we're competing, like Amanda just said, we're competing against every other department. All the departments are competing against each other. And unless we do something big and really stand out, because this is a nice town and everything like that, but it doesn't cut it. People aren't gonna just come here unless there's some unique situation, like we hired Officer Austin Cochran this year, which
Right.
was awesome, and he's doing a great job. But it was unique because he was from here.
Right.
We don't have any certified officers who are applied,
And there's a,
because we're not offering anything. We're not offering anything.
so if this stuff, if this committee, so what committee reviewed all this?
Labor Negotiations Committee is required to go over any of the items that would be added to the contract, or could be added to the contract for the union.
Right.
And so we got them together. I was asked to set up a meeting, and I did. And they went through all of the items and all of the many details that the police chief provided, because he had quite a few papers that he provided to me after we met. So we got the meeting scheduled, and they went through all of the items.
So if they say not approved, that idea is done and that's it,
Well,
then they have the final say.
Well, what I would suggest is
I was
that
just
we,
curious.
yeah, what I suggest is that we separate these items. We have too many items here, and just go for what we want, and then have the police chief meet with the committee on just the items that we want, separate out all the rest of this, because there's so much.
I think number one that we need to address is that bonus, because that's what everybody's doing. And we won't get new employees if we don't address that here as well. It's unfortunate, I don't like that we have to pay people to come to work, but if that's what everybody else is doing, we're never gonna get another police officer.
The other thing is,
I might move to Fort Kent for $18,000.
the other thing is, we have 3 full-time officers right now who work in patrol, myself and 2 officers. One of them has to go to the academy in August. So in about, I don't know exactly the start date in August.
6 weeks.
In 6 weeks, we're gonna be down to 2, because we haven't offered anything. And we need to sit down tomorrow and make a decision, because it's becoming a safety issue.
How?
Well, yeah, I mean, so we'll just say right now, you got 3 people. There's one guy always on duty?
No, we're not even covering around the clock now. We're on call, but we're working from 6 a.m. till 4 p.m., 4 p.m. till 2 a.m., and then from 2 a.m. till 6 a.m. we're on call.
So how many hours are those other guys working a week? Well, and yourself included, I guess. Oh, I mean, okay, let's talk about your union guys. How many hours a week are they working?
Well, they're working probably 40 to 50.
Yeah, all right. And then you're covering.
I'm working everything that nobody else will work, plus my
Normal.
Last week I had 73 hours.
How about your reserve officers? Are they able to help with any
Yeah,
coverage?
the reserve officers have been awesome.
The reserve officers have done really
Yeah,
well.
but they can't always work. And that's another reason why I have been here about trying to attract and retain quality reserve officers also, and paying them. And we can't be compared to other town departments. And that, I don't mean any disrespect by that. But if you go to any other town, the police or the full-time, I'm talking full-time fire departments or full-time police departments, they're not compared to other towns, departments. It's a hazardous duty job. The officers are going to life and death situations. They go to domestics. I've had 3 officers in the last 9 months who were out of work for a week or more because of injuries sustained during calls,
Right.
domestics, fights. One officer was out of work for over a month, and he was a reserve officer.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Well, so, I mean.
and those calls were in the middle of the night, by the way.
Right.
All but one of those were in the middle of the night. So we have, you know, like I said back in April, I made the proposal, you know, and then I went back and I made the other proposals, and I got the feedback from the officers, both full-time and part-time, in other departments. But there's a lot of stuff in here that is, I believe, you know, would at least help us to be more attractive, and I think they're fiscally responsible.
Well, so those, I mean, obviously you put all these ideas together, so you kind of believe in and stand behind a lot of them.
Yeah.
And now that you've got feedback from them, so,
Right.
I mean, basically they said not approved to
Everything was.
everything. They said
everything
some
was basically
they'll
not
look into
approved.
more.
No, there was some that were good ideas.
No, the committee, I was not invited to the committee meeting. I didn't even know anything about it. And they just said they would take them under consideration, but most of them, if you read this, are not approved. I don't know who was on the committee, but
Yeah.
I don't know how, I think if they understood the magnitude of the situation, if I had gone to the meeting, they'd understand that, because the meeting was quite a while ago, and because we're getting into a critical time now.
Well, I think that's helpful information, and information on somebody going away to school is helpful information too. So what I would suggest is that you separate out and pick out the items that you really want and separate out all the rest of this, because there's so much there. And then we'll have the committee meet and you can meet with them.
Yeah,
And
I
go
would,
over just the essential items that are going to have the best effect.
Well, can I ask a question?
yeah,
Would it be better to go in front of the whole council and talk about this so everyone understands this? Or, however you do it, I can do it open. I mean, it's no different than what we're talking about now. These aren't personnel matters, this is just
It
hiring
needs a
stuff.
recommendation of the committee, so that's something that should take place, so that we can talk to the union, and then we can do the other steps. But
The
we need to-
union wasn't notified about any of this stuff.
Well, the union is notified through the officers. You met with the officers and talked to them about the projects, and you even suggested to me to cut out the union at the meeting that we had, which we can't do. So the union will get a list of items that we finally agree on, and then we'll negotiate on them.
No, wait a minute, that's not accurate.
It
What
is accurate.
I said was the union attorneys is what I said. All the proposals in this document that I gave you were approved by the two union members.
But they can't approve them, the union has to approve.
All I was saying is the union here, there's only two members in the union. They approve everything that's in here. Now, we know we're not gonna get everything. These were just ideas. But all these ideas, they approved. The only thing I was saying is, we don't need to get the union attorney his approval if the union members already approve it.
You said the union attorney negotiates for the union members. That's their representation. They have to have representation under the contract and the state law. We have to include them.
Right.
And you said not to. We can't do
Well,
that.
I think you misunderstood.
No,
But
it was pretty clear, and we went over that. That's how we got in trouble
Okay.
before.
Oh.
So we
All right.
we have to
We just want to go through some of these and do it as quick as we can.
who's part of the group, is Heather on the
Yeah,
labor?
the Mayor Heather, which you
Yeah.
just put on, and
Yeah.
Tim Nichols.
That is just on
There's two
two?
counselors, and then I go to the meetings.
There's
Who,
nobody
but
else
who
on
else
it?
is on the overall, who was,
But that's it,
it's Tim and Heather and you?
yes.
Okay.
So what we should do is separate out, what do you really want, what is gonna have the best effect? Get rid of all this other item and put it on a secondary list, because there's so much.
Catherine, I think the other thing that needs to be done when these are looked at is they need to be looked at individually. So even if he has a couple of things that may have overlap, look at each item as its own individual item instead of how it relates to anything else that might be on the list. Because maybe it's that this thing won't work, but this is the better idea, instead of saying, because this is on there, we shouldn't have this.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Because looking at this, a lot of the comments were strictly that, well, because this is also on the list, that would not be good. So just each individual thing should be its own item.
And that's very good. What should happen is only the items that are essential, that are the best items, should be on the list, and the rest of this gets separated out, because there's so much, which is partially, I believe, why
Well,
some
I mean,
things weren't approved.
in fairness, we all asked the chief for
Yeah, we asked him.
ideas, and he
A whole
gave
bunch.
ideas. And
Well,
so,
we're at a point where we need to look at some ideas, not all ideas.
yeah, but when, most of these are not approved, so.
Yeah. So we should-
Why would he have to go back and prioritize them when, They're not
I can do what you're
We need to
asking right
separate them
now.
out.
I can prioritize them right now And we could settle this tonight.
Well, we
Well,
can't settle
we
it
can't.
tonight because the labor negotiation committee has to approve the items.
Alright, so
So
there's
plan-
ones that they wanna look into, chief.
Yeah,
And
pick out the
then,
ones that they.
and then
want.
beyond that,
I think for
I
the
guess
not
maybe I would
yeah, and
try to
for not
get like the
approval-
top 5 or something like that, beyond the ones they said they're gonna look into.
I think even beyond that though, we need to have, we really need to have them relook at these bonuses. And because they said not approved on every single one of these.
Right.
And that has to be readdressed.
Yeah, that's.
And they have to be looked at for what they are. Sign-on bonuses, one time, well, it ends up being 2 times because we're not gonna give $10,000
Right.
when they come. But it's a one-time $10,000, well, $5,000, and then a year after they've stayed, they get their other half.
Right.
And that's fine, we need to pick out, the chief needs to pick out the priority items and then meet with the committee.
When will the committee be meeting, Catherine?
It depends on their schedule, because of the work schedules were very difficult, but.
She's here. You made it. Kinda.
Oh, there's only one Heather on here
You
now.
can hear us now.
Somehow you got stuck on there twice too.
Well, I had my iPad up so I could see things, and the audio was terrible, so I put my phone on thinking that was better.
And that might be part of the echoing thing.
Was it echoing in
Yeah,
here?
no, only for you.
Well, I turned off the audio at one of them.
But
So
could
they're
you
talking.
hear what we're chatting about now?
I caught bits and pieces.
Yeah, they're talking now, we got through the whole capital thing, so under the capital, starting with the 2021, I will make a chart, like the CIP chart, the Excel spreadsheet that says what we exactly spent. We're not gonna go back and do the whole 20 years because nobody does that, but we'll do that as a new item going forward in the future. So that's
So that we
fine.
can see what we said we wanted to allocate versus what actually happened.
Which usually is just the fire trucks and the paving, because nobody wants to get the loans, which is understandable, and now
Right.
public works trucks. And then second, the police chief came about his list of items for incentives and would like to review those with the committee, which
Yeah.
is fine. But I've asked that he pick out the most important ones and not this whole massive list.
Right. So that on like April 13th or whatever, we asked the chief to give us a list of all the different ideas and get with his officers and come up with ideas. That's what this was, and then you guys reviewed it.
Yeah.
And then we were just, because we hadn't seen this until tonight, so we were trying to close the loop on that and just see where we were standing. And that's what we're talking about now.
Is that the letter from the negotiating committee back
Yes.
to?
Yeah, yeah.
So, I've asked that the chief separate out the items that he really wants, that he thinks will make a difference, and that we concentrate on those and he re-meet with the committee.
The other thing that I asked too, Heather, just so that you know as a member of that committee, is that each item is looked at individually, not as a whole package like it was looked at here. Because some ideas might be really good, and some may not be as acceptable to the committee, but each one should be its own individual item.
What do you mean as a whole?
Well, like some of the comments here was, we couldn't do this because of something else that was mentioned, for example. But instead, you could look at it as, this is its own item, this is its own item. I was reading through it, I'm gonna
Can you
be
give me an example of?
Yeah, I
I'm
don't
trying
have
to find-
paperwork, so I'm not sure what we need. I didn't know it was gonna be on the agenda.
Pete, do you have another copy, or is this the only other one you have?
Well, I made copies for everyone.
Okay, Catherine said she doesn't have a copy of it.
I
It's
offered to
okay,
give
I don't
one.
have a copy.
Oh.
He offered to give
Did
her
you
one.
have an example, Amanda, of?
Hold on, I'm trying to find it, Heather.
There must be probably one in there or two.
I know I read it because I wouldn't have brought it up had I not.
All right, so is this a plan of action, or?
Are you talking about?
Well, at the town council meeting, I asked for us to go over this, so, at this meeting, so it's not like we,
Yes, you did ask.
right.
I
so
watched that video.
This isn't a,
Are
you
you
know, a
talking
spur of the
about
moment thing.
the part, Amanda, where we're talking about how some of the items that were proposed would have to apply to all employees?
No, not that.
No, she's mentioning.
That I understand, that
Okay.
for union purposes. I live in the union world, I get it.
Well, no, well, on some of that, I wasn't quite sure, cause like, I mean, just because you're, say giving I don't know, $5,000 to the police officer that stuck around and he's gonna stay through another year or whatever, a one-time payment. Just because you're doing that for for the police department doesn't necessarily mean you need to do it for the, you know, the town clerk or the other departments of the town, right? I mean, this was kind of apples and oranges, is that,
The employees may not see it that way.
well, I mean,
The part-time officers are non-union, but like I was trying to say is,
okay.
they can't be compared to other town employees.
Right.
Even the part-timers, because the part-timers are going to gun calls, they're going to domestics. It's a hazardous duty position.
Right.
And like I said at the April meeting, by offering some of these reserve officers a pay raise, some of these reserves may only work, I'm making up a number, 10 shifts a month, 10 shifts a year. So if you give them a $3 or $4 pay raise, you're only talking a few $100.
Right.
You're not talking thousands and thousands of dollars. But, and like I said a little while ago and at the other meeting, I'm not putting down other employees or other town, but if you go to any other town, the police departments, the full-time fire departments, they're handled different. They don't get the same benefits as somebody working in the water department, or the sewer department, or public works.
So
Right.
one of the examples, Heather, was under this proposal and the relaxing of mileage requirement. This would be a significant thing. Well, you know, you could be looking at the mileage requirement by itself and the cruiser thing by itself.
Hold on,
That was
what
one.
page are you on?
Well, they're not numbered. Hold on, let me count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, page 5, and the take-home cruiser one. The answer was the full-time officers authorized thing. And under this proposal and the relaxing of mileage requirement, I was looking at two separate things, but combining them into one.
All right, hold on. The mileage thing, are you talking about the 50 mile versus the 20 mile? Is that
I'm not even under that one.
No.
That's why I'm saying it was covered in a bullet that had nothing to do with the mileage. It had to do with allowing the police officers to take the cruisers home.
1,
Take
2,
home.
But if you allow the
3.
officers to take the cruisers home and the officer lives 50 miles away, then it's gonna cost a lot of money. That's the
Well,
only
what we
problem.
say, Catherine, is in that situation, if you live over our restricted mileage area, you don't get a take-home cruiser. And that's what you say. So if somebody lives in Burnham, it's not that big of a deal if they go to Burnham, because they could live closer to the town center than somebody who lives in West Pittsfield.
I
Same thing with
understand
Detroit. So you just say, let's say that if you live within 20-mile radius, as a round number, then you get a take-home cruiser. If you live outside of that 20-mile radius, then you don't.
That's exactly right. Whatever the radius would be, that we have an open discussion about it. And but this, what you're talking about, was the mileage for an officer, because my recommendation was to lift it totally, because right now we're trying to attract and retain certified officers. If there's an officer that, say, lives in Lewiston, for example, I don't care if they live in Kittery, as long as they show up to work. Most police departments in the state do not have a mileage restriction.
But he won't be able to be on call.
But he,
Or would he?
Well, no,
He'd be too far away.
no. right now, it would be a problem, the way we're operating this minute,
Mhm.
But
because
if
of
we were
the.
fully staffed.
But when we're fully staffed, it wouldn't be a problem at all.
Oh,
It would
so-
never be a problem.
Oh.
If we have an emergency situation, just like we had when Gene Cole got killed, the officers, well, I was the only one over there, but the officers came from other departments from all over the state.
Right.
And they came as they were needed, or, they responded. But right now, with even the 50-mile radius, we're limiting ourselves. We're limiting ourselves. My proposal was to lift that totally.
Yeah.
That was a separate item. That's a separate item from the take-home cruiser. And then, like Amanda was just mentioning, those are two separate items.
Heather, what was the background on? I know it was like it used to be 20, now it's 50.
It was 20, and it's the other thing too is that it's actually written into the contract, so that has to have union approval no matter what.
Correct, and the union has
Oh.
indicated that they do not want it to be unlimited, they want 50 miles.
What was that? Was the 50
Well, but that's
miles
for
is
the
in the
mileage,
union
though.
contract?
It's,
No, 20.
No,
It's
wait a
20
minute.
now.
Okay,
That
but,
was-
but
that
you
was
guys are gonna.
50 we thought was a reasonable, like an hour's drive, basically. If you lived within an hour, it would be a viable employment opportunity for someone. So you could get somebody from Augusta
Augusta.
past out
So
that
even
way
the-
or something.
But what
like
if they live in Lewiston or what if they live an hour further? Why have one? But what I want to say is the current union members, the statement that the town manager just made is not accurate. The current main members of the union, they are agreeable to all of this stuff. Some of these ideas were their ideas, and from the reserve officers. I'm the one who has to run the department. I don't see it as a problem. If they want to live in Kittery, if they want to live in Fort Kent, as long as they show up to work on time and they do their work, I don't think it's an issue. But I think it's gonna close the door a little bit for our recruiting efforts.
so that we're clear, I have in writing from the union that they want a 50-mile radius, and that came from the union.
From the current members,
Yes,
I don't know.
That are on his
It's
staff?
re- it's
That are
very
on
re-
it.
it's
When you
very-
say union,
it's very recent, it's from the union attorney who represents the
union
union
attorney,
members.
not your
That's a-
office.
that's
I'm talking about the
Not his
officers.
Well,
I'm-
the union attorney speaks for the officers,
speaks
so
for
that's
the
what we have to
officers.
go
He's
by.
not, well, let's not get into that now. Let's just,
That's where you
all I'm
can't
saying
work with
is,
just the officers and cut out the union representation, because then we'll be in the same issue we were before, we
all
can't do
I'm
that.
saying is the officers that are full-time now, there's only two, they have,
They were on board.
they are all on board with this.
So where we're at right now is right now it says 20. You want it unlimited. The board went to them and said, how about 50? They agreed to 50, so that's where
I
it
think that's a
stands
good
right now.
compromise right now.
It's a
and then we get
compromise
rid of it.
between
Right.
everything under the sun and way too limited for what
Yeah.
we can do, and that might be the best we can get out of them right now.
I don't think, I wasn't even aware of that. And I'm gonna go to both of them right now after this meeting and ask them if they were asked that.
I
Because
have it in writing.
they never told me that.
Well, it's not, we have to go
I think we're
by
talking
what
two
the
different-
union
Right.
We're talking two
tells
different things.
Right, we are.
us.
You're talking the
Not-
officers that are your union people. You're talking the
The union league.
Right.
the head union
We
guy.
can only talk to the union people, we can't talk to the
Right.
officers.
But if, say those two officers go to that gentleman that said 50 miles or whatever, and they wanted it unlimited, does he just represent them, or is he representing all union officers throughout the state?
Well, if it was all union officers, we wouldn't have a mileage thing, because we're one of the few left that do.
Yeah, it's just.
Yeah, so
it's
why
the
did that
union
guy
members
say,
here.
why did the union representation guy, gentleman say 50 miles?
I have it in writing, I don't
I'm not saying,
Yeah, I don't
I'm
know.
not saying you don't have it, I'm asking Do we know why he said that number, or?
I don't think, we're certainly not party to any discussions that go on between the officers and their union
Oh,
representation.
yeah, right.
So you need to think of this as, you know, if somebody's in a lawsuit, if you sue me, you can then not talk to me at all about anything. You have to go through my lawyer, I have to go through your lawyer.
Right, yeah.
So
I've been in
they
the
have
union. I know how
they
it
have
is.
representation, and so
Yeah.
we need to respect that
Yes.
and work within that system that we have.
Right.
He obviously has a really good rapport with the two officers that are in the union at the moment and can talk to them about these things, but
Yeah.
that's not necessarily the best course of action because
Right.
they have a union representative to speak for them in negotiating with the town. Because it's not just negotiating with the chief about how
Right.
the officers can operate within the department. They have to negotiate. The town and the union are the two parties to the contract.
That
It's not a
negotiate.
contract
So the town
between
negotiates
and
for
the
Pete,
attorneys.
the union negotiates for the guys
Right,
working.
and so Pete brought these
Right.
proposals to the town, the negotiating committee looked at them, we made recommendations, asked him to go back and look at them. This document was the result of the meeting that we had, and apparently it's gone to the union already, Catherine? Or does it go back to Pete first?
No, it went to Pete
It
first.
goes back to Pete,
Yeah.
and then it comes back, and then
Right.
we go to the union with the full document and the proposal.
Or what we did, or what's decided on. The items that aren't decided on wouldn't go to the union because it would just cause confusion.
Well, some of
So
this.
right now, we're kind of in the middle ground where
Correct.
Pete wants it to be unlimited, it's currently at 20, 50 seems a reasonable compromise, and the union apparently has sent Catherine an agreement that, or not an agreement, but has sent indications that they would agree to that portion
Yeah.
of it.
Yeah, but
That's where
why did we
stand
go
right
to the
now.
union at all with why have we gone to the union on that particular
I think
item?
because we're trying to hire people.
Yeah, there were some items that came out of the finance committee meeting that you agreed on, so I gave those
The
to the
mileage.
union, and they came back
The
and said
mileage.
50.
The mileage was a specific one because that one was
Yeah.
Oh,
so limited,
and
we
we
could
said-
not hire anybody.
Right.
Those things
Those were
that weren't money.
And he came back and said 50 and, okay.
Those were the things that we all agreed and said, yes, these are
Yeah.
great, these are things we can do immediately.
Right, 'cause it doesn't
Versus
cost.
some of the monetary stuff is a
Right, 'cause
little
it was no
messier and
cost for
takes
the
more
mileage.
time to go
Right,
through.
okay. And then that's where he came back. with
I'll make it real simple. I'll clarify it, and when I send out my top proposals like you asked for, that I think that we should try to really go after, I can clarify with the two union officers, not the union attorney.
And the town has to work with the union attorney. We
Right,
can't.
and if we have to
can't
change
contact
anything in the
officers.
contract, we can do a sidebar agreement, as long as the officers agree on it. And it's acquiesced by the town or the union attorney. So I can do that real easily.
All right, I think Heather and I have explained this out several times. The town has to work with the union representation.
Right, he's
We-
just,
He's
We
just
can't-
saying that he can
Yeah.
talk to the officers, make
I'm not-
sure they're
I don't
on board,
believe-
so
That they like
that
the
they
idea-
tell their
that they like the
union
idea at
lawyer.
all,
Yeah,
right?
I'm not trying to do anything underhanded or different or end
All right,
around.
so why don't we have the police chief pick out the top items, leave the others on a brainstorming list, and we'll work on a few items so we get someplace.
So with the cruiser thing, Pete, I would suggest putting in the proposal part that there would be an agreed upon distance for the cruisers if they were to have a take-home one. Like, we don't want them going to Augusta with a take-home cruiser, for example, because that's 47 miles.
I agree.
So,
Yeah, I would put a mileage limit.
Yeah, like 20
so how
miles.
does that, so how does that affect officers and that not all the officers would be treated equally as far as, do you know what I mean? As far
Well,
as like,
if they
it's a
choose-
benefit to Jason, cause he doesn't have to drive his personal vehicle into work and back and forth. But Amanda, she has to drive her personal vehicle in and out of work.
If I choose to live in Augusta and drive to Pittsfield, I don't get the same benefits that I would get if I lived in Burnham or Clinton. That is a choice the employed individual makes. It's not favoritism. It is saying, if you live within this radius, of the town hall, because that's where our police department is, then as a benefit of that, you get this. If you choose to live outside of that radius, that's perfectly fine. This happens in construction all the time too. They say a radius within it, and you get a company vehicle. This is not something that's out there and unheard of. It happens a lot. And we live in a really rural area, and to have that kind of restriction is really important, I think. I worked at a place where I had to travel a certain amount of miles, and I chose not to live closer to where my clients were, so I lost 20 miles of pay because they only paid to a certain amount of mileage. It's a similar idea.
So when they have take-home cruisers, Pete, are they taking them home on days that they are on shift? Or do they have them all the time, even on times that they're not on shift?
Well, like I said earlier, this was just an idea to try to attract people, like throwing a big carrot out. That's all these were ideas. So when I've discussed this with the full-time officers and some of the reserves, or both, they all understand that if we got this, that there's going to be requirements that go along with it, just like what Amanda's saying. They understand that if you live in Kittery, you're not going to take your cruiser home. But we haven't refined it like that yet. If this was approved, and it's not approved, it's an idea. If it was approved down the road, then I would make recommendations that, everyone can have a cruiser who lives, I'm making this all up right now, 30 miles radius or 20-mile radius or whatever like that, and they would have it full time, just like the state troopers, just like the sheriff's department. It's a big thing for an officer.
So you would develop a policy manual of sorts.
I would have a policy.
regarding this.
I would have a policy for take-home cruises.
Right, that'd be nice.
And I would have, in any of these ideas, like I keep saying, if they have anything to do with the union contract, I'm not going to go around the union contract. These are just ideas. They would have to be agreed upon by the union members, the two who are in the union now, and and the union attorney. So there's
you got to go through the proper channel.
we're going to do it properly.
Right.
And if a sidebar agreement had to be done, because it's a contractual issue, that's what has to be done. But a lot of these are not contractual issues also. They involve reserve officers. So, like I said, this is to attract and retain quality full-time and reserve officers. It's not just the full-timers. I need reserves also.
So one of the concerns I think that, Amanda, you said about the relaxing the mileage requirement. I think if we are talking about full-time officers having the cruisers, that has to be a consideration with this, because if we are saying that it's 30 miles, that's further than it is now, and even at 20 miles, 30 miles, 2 ways to get to work, to go home again, 5 shifts a week, 52 weeks a year is an extra 15,000 miles on every vehicle. Just to kind of put it into perspective as far as the wear and tear that we would, and I think that's where that was coming from.
Yeah, I was just saying in this one that you could say, yes, they could have it, but that means we can't allow this relaxation. It was more that I wanted each item to be looked at as its own entity. Yes, we could approve potentially. I'm not saying we have the budget for it. I don't know that as a town we can actually do it. But if we were looking at it pretending that we do have money to do this, if that were the idea, then it would be, yes, we could say that this is something that could have further review, but the mileage would have to be restricted on where they live. But that doesn't mean that somebody who lives 50 miles away can't work here. They just can't get a take-home cruiser.
Well, those are two separate items.
That was my point.
Whether we relax that mileage, and then this would be separate. But if we do relax the mileage as proposed, and then we say, okay, full-time officers can have cruisers, this is the impact of it, and while it seems like a very good idea and maybe attractive, there's a cost with it, and that's something that we can't really ignore and say, oh, we're not gonna look at that part of it. I think that,
Right.
I remember we had that discussion in the negotiations committee about what are the actual physical costs of these different proposals, because there's a lot of things in here that, yeah, I mean, who doesn't wanna do, like, have more sick time and do this and do this, but they all have a cost to them, and it's not, does the town not want to do this, but can the town afford to do it? And that's what our bottom line needs to be, is can we actually afford to do some of these things? And the
I
answer to some of
agree
them is
that-
we can't.
The fiscal impact has to be looked at.
Mhm.
I am a fairly conservative person when it comes to stuff like this, but I also know the cost if we don't get officers in here. And so I think that in considering that, yes, we have to decide, well, and I agree, the sick time and stuff like that, that's all union stuff that we can't
Yeah.
really, except for reserve officers who aren't union, that we just really have no control over. But when we're looking at some of this stuff like doing a sign-on bonus, can we afford not to do that? Because you may have missed this part, I don't know if you caught it because your phone was cutting in and out, but Fort Kent's offering $18,000 sign-on bonus right now.
I've seen some of the items.
Yeah, and they were talking about it down at the State House, some of the police officers, and the crafty things they're doing to try to retain people, or attract people and then retain them. And if we don't do something to compete with that, we're never gonna fill these positions and we're gonna lose our department.
And that one there was, I mean, that's not approved, but according to the chief, if you get a full-time certified officer versus somebody else that you have to put through all this stuff to become certified eventually, well, the town's gonna save a lot of money versus spend a lot of money. So I'm not sure if the background to that was presented at your guys' meeting, but it was not approved. And-
I provided all the background that I was given, so they had a packet.
Right, okay.
What I suggested earlier, Heather, was it would have been nice if I could have come to your meeting to explain this. And I'd like to go to the full council so everyone understands that, like I keep saying, these are just proposals. And I understand they're expensive. Some of them, I said that in my memos, and I said it at the last meeting in April. I know these are expensive. I know we can't have everything. But we have to do something to try to attract and retain quality officers. If we can get certified officers, it's a bonus. Because by offering them the $10,000, it's gonna cost me $40,000 or $50,000 if I have to hire a brand new officer. When you take into account the training, going to the academy, backfilling their positions at time and a half, it's gonna be much more expensive than to try to throw a bonus of $10,000.
So I've explained the next step is that he would go to the committee with, and I have suggested the top items and separate out all the rest of this so he can actually concentrate on several items instead of everything.
So you could to do that, and you wanna let us know after you've gone through this, Pete, and then we'll set up a committee, a negotiations committee to go through the.
I'd like to come to the full council.
Well, we need to go to the labor negotiation committee and get this resolved.
Well, I'd like to have the council.
It
in
doesn't
the
go through
public.
the council
It doesn't go
though,
through
it
the
goes through the
council.
negotiations committee because it deals with the labor relations with the union. We can't discuss that in open council because it's
Yeah,
union
but not all of these are
negotiations.
labor negotiation
Almost all of
matters.
them are. So we need to get this resolved as soon as possible because he's told us tonight that one of the officers is going to school in August.
I had mentioned that before to
So
you.
that will cut down on the number of officers that they
Yeah.
have. So this was mentioned this evening. So we need to resolve these items. So we need to concentrate and not get
Yeah, we
into
know,
the weeds.
we know that.
Yeah.
So-
Well, I'm explaining to the police chief. I
Pete,
know.
what do you
I-
think
I'm
for a
pretty sure he
timeline for
understands
you to
it.
be able to go through the proposal and then have it back?
I think we should meet tomorrow. If
Well,
we could meet
Well, you
tomorrow.
need to
Can't
get
meet
the
tomorrow.
information to the committee.
Yeah, Heather, come
you
on.
have to have.
Wait, what do you mean you can't
Have
meet
you
tomorrow?
already gone
Get
back
to it.
through the committee, the letter from the committee, really gone back through this and kind of weeded it out?
Well, no, I mean, I came to the meeting tonight to talk about the capital improvement for the,
You brought the list of
for
the
the
items here to
cruises.
talk
Well,
about.
I asked about it,
Okay,
And he-
hold on.
he had it.
Yeah, he brought it down so we could discuss it.
So we have
Yeah,
this,
You can,
is
a
the
lot of
committee
attitude going
reply
on.
back to your proposal.
Jeez.
So the ball is in your court right now.
Yeah.
How long do you think it would take you to go back through this and look and pull out the most important things that you want to concentrate on?
I can do it right now.
Well, do you want to meet next week? Do we
Sure,
want to
that'd
look
be
at
fine.
schedules for next week?
Yeah.
Catherine can set it up, because she'll have to get Tim's schedule
Yes.
for next week as
Sure.
well.
I
That
can do
would
it
give
as
you a
soon
few
as
days,
possible.
And then, okay, so
So
let
we can get
Catherine
this-
know when you have the second draft of this.
Yeah.
She can get it to Tim and I, and Tim, Catherine, and I will sit down and go through it, and then have a final document to send back to you, and then to
I think-
the union.
I think what Catherine had said, Heather, though, was that at that meeting, when you discuss it, he would come so that he can provide feedback to
He
you
can
guys.
come.
Okay.
We could,
Yeah.
if we want to discuss it first and then have him come, I mean, you could do it so he can come. That's
Okay,
fine.
okay.
That's fine.
Probably
Let's do
be
that then.
helpful to get his feedback.
Yeah, just in case some of the typed words aren't as,
Okay,
sometimes we mean something when we're typing it.
Yeah.
I find this all the time, and then it comes across totally different.
Clarification.
okay,
I
so
think-
let's plan on that,
Right.
having you come to the labor negotiation committee meeting with your proposal.
Right.
And then we'll hash out some of the items that we can take to the union, and we'll figure out which ones we can do without having to go to the union.
And I'm not trying to, I don't want you to think that I'm trying to circumvent the labor negotiation committee by saying that I want all the town councilors to understand, so they all understand the issue, because it's a real big issue. We talked about it earlier. We have officers working a lot of hours, and we have an officer going to the academy in August, so we're gonna be down to 2. I can't count on the part-time officers all the time. I've got officers who are gonna be going on vacation also. And, you know.
So that's
it's-
why I wanna move it along.
Yeah.
And
Right.
I'm wondering, I don't think we're making any progress here tonight. I feel like we're
Correct.
going round and round in
Right.
circles, so that's
Right.
why I want you to take time, go through it, bring it
Right.
back to the labor negotiation.
I've
come with
tried
us
to do that in the past.
And then the whole council sees it before we send it to the union for final approval, correct?
Usually, no,
No.
no.
Don't we have to approve it as a full
Um,
council?
No, it gets approved afterwards. We need to work it
Oh,
out.
we work with the union first and then
Yeah.
it comes to the council to ratify.
We'll see what the union says. I would
Okay.
assume that they
But
would
don't
agree
you
with
think the
most
full
things.
council should know everything that's been proposed and the townspeople?
No, they never do in labor
No, because
negotiations.
it's the
Not
labor
yet.
negotiation.
Not yet, no,
Yeah, I wouldn't go to them yet.
no. You
The
want it worked out.
Counselors have the opportunity to ask questions after the town and the union have reached an agreement.
I'll get the list
before-
to you the first of the week, and hopefully we can have a meeting next week.
Don't send it to me, send it to Catherine, because
Okay.
she'll organize the meeting
And
and
if
get
the,
that all.
and if the rest of our council does care and we wanna sit in on that meeting
Mhm.
for the knowledge of,
Yep,
just, we can, right?
oh, I don't see.
Well, we
that.
can't have at more than 2, because then it becomes a,
Oh, then it becomes a full council
yeah,
meeting.
full
Oh, okay.
council, yeah, and we
Okay.
don't want
There's a
that.
Well,
sticking
wait, it
point
can't
there.
become a full council meeting at that. It would still be the labor negotiations meeting. We just
No,
don't.
because you have 3 councilors together, MMA considers that being a council
But there's
meeting.
4 here.
Yeah.
This is a committee
It's a
meeting.
committee.
That would be a committee meeting. So it's
It's a
still
different-
labeled as a committee
Yeah, it's a
meeting.
different type of committee meeting because it's confidential, union negotiations.
Well, that's one,
It
isn't it?
is considered differently.
It's a union negotiation if the union's not even there?
We're working on a proposal for the union negotiations.
Where in the thing, the charter, does it say that that one's exempt from the committee rule? Because I really think that that's wrong, and I'd like to see where that is, because if we can meet here, and this is not considered a full council, because we have 4 counselors
Well,
here.
it is, but it's already advertised and it's an open meeting. I already have the agenda out, it's on the website and.
But it could
other
be called,
locations.
I assume that when you meet, people would have to know that that meeting is going on, and if they don't, and that doesn't have to be public knowledge,
It's not public
Then-
knowledge.
then
The public's
wouldn't
not allowed
it be
to
an
show.
executive session if those of us, especially the finance committee members, wanting to understand, because some of these proposals do impact the budget.
And we'll have.
Well,
to
that's
cal-
why it comes out of there and comes
We'll
to
have to
us.
calculate the cost of everything. I only calculated some of the items.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then it comes out, so it comes out of your thing and then it will come back to the finance committee.
Yes, you can hear the
Yes.
information.
Like even though you say yes in your,
We could say yes to something,
And-
agree with something.
and we could say
and
no.
then the finance committee be like, no,
Nope.
you're crazy, we
right.
can't do that.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So that's how that's how it kinda all,
I would think we want the
Sorry.
finance committee to look at any of the fiscal impact type.
I think that they can look at that, that's fine.
Right.
I just
Well,
started
that's
the
why we did it.
process and there were so many items, I just took the major ones and figured out the costs and everything, but some we'd have to have clarification and assumptions to calculate the costs. So I just did the major ones. But yes, we'd have to do all the fiscal notes and everything.
And Catherine, in the meantime, can you provide me with the stuff in the charter that exempts that one?
I
Just so
don't
that
think
I'm
it's in the
clear on
charter,
that?
it's an interpretation of the attorneys. I'll look it up, I got that interpretation.
I don't want you to pay the attorney to give another review, I just assume that you already have that, knowing that knowledge, so I just wanna make sure that I understand it as well.
Yeah, I'm gonna go back and get my notes from that. That was a
Okay.
while ago. This came up before, and so I had to get it researched, so it's in the files.
Okay, great.
I'll have to pull it out.
Yeah, I definitely don't wanna cost the town more money
alright.
for
Yeah,
that.
no, we don't have to, I just have to get my notes out on it.
Okay, thank
So
you.
the second round of this will be all the things that you guys mentioned that you would explore more and under review and that
He's gonna
stuff.
go through it, create a second
Let him
round, then
do
it
it.
comes back to the negotiations committee.
And I'll be invited this time, right?
You'll be talking with us that meeting.
Well, just for clarification, when it says under review, who's it under review with?
Which item, I don't have a copy, which item
Uh,
are you referring to?
This is
There's
a
a couple
wellness
items.
program for full-time and reserve officers, that's under review.
All right, that would be
The main
for
first thing.
all employees, so that would be,
Well-
we've made a couple of phone calls, there were some suggestions at the meeting as to what we would do. So that would be something that would be looked at for the next budget period for everyone.
So that's what I'm
So how
talking
come
about.
that one would be for all employees? I don't understand that.
It would be for all employees.
Why?
Because all employees need to have, wellness and positive, items.
It would be more cost effective, I think. is what
But we're talking about attracting officers here. These are ideas for the police department.
Well, other employees can be involved in some of the items, that should be a townwide program for
So,
everybody.
Pete, the idea was that,
I don't disagree,
we actually
but-
you don't have a place for them to work out you don't have facilities for the police. Normally, all the police departments I've seen, they have a space for their officers to work out either before, after, between shifts or whatever. Usually that's available. We don't have that space. We don't have a gym here in town anymore for people to go to.
Right.
The nearest one is down in Fairfield, or you're trucking out to
Newport.
or
But see,
where else?
Heather.
So the idea was that if we had a wellness program where we worked out something, where we had wellness coordinators, and it would be like a whole health plan for all of the employees, in order to benefit all of the employees, that would be more cost effective. Maybe we contract with someone to provide those services for the entire staff of the town of Pittsfield. That would be more cost effective than paying for memberships at different places or not having a program. So that is how we said, okay, let's look at this as in a different way, a little bit out of the box of, instead of paying for a program for 4 officers, we have other departments that could benefit from this, and it can help with employee retention and health across the board, whether it's mental health, physical health, wellness checks and opportunities and things like that. It could help all of the employees. So that's how it got rolled.
It's a good idea.
Yeah, I agree, it's a good idea. I was just like, so that one was under review. There's other ones that are
College reimbursement.
under review,
Yeah.
or
Night differential
merits,
pay.
merits more, yeah, merits more review. I was just wondering who's actually doing
Those
more
will
of
be
these
under
reviews.
review for the next budget period.
Oh, is that what, okay. I was just curious what
Like,
you.
we would work out how the college tuition would work. but it would
Right,
work
and
for
the night
everybody.
differential,
Yeah.
that would be something we'd have.
Yeah,
to-
that one, we have to figure out the costs and how that would work, and how payroll would do that. The timesheets are confusing enough now with the corrections and everything, that
Right.
we'd have to set that up a certain way, but that is doable.
Okay. Yeah, I'm good. Alright. Trying to understand it all.
I mean, there were some good ideas, it just was so much.
So we'll take another stab at this together, probably late next week, I would think, if you have it ready at the beginning of the week. If Tim's schedule, I don't know when his.
It will be
work
Tim's
is.
schedule, that will be the challenge.
Yeah, I can
Okay.
be somewhat flexible, before I actually say that.
Well, you
We're
have,
going into 4th of July weekend next week too, but
well, you have some employees now, so it works out better for you.
I do have an employee now, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can be flexible. Thursday, I have something to do, but I mean, I can be pretty flexible next week, except for Wednesday.
Okay, yeah.
And Tuesday we have.
We don't have anything.
No,
Tuesday.
no, this is
No,
the
not
extra
next
week
week.
if we're
It's the
trying to
extra
get
one.
work
It's the
done.
extra Tuesday of the month.
Yes. It's a good thing.
Nice.
Unless we're gonna meet with Pete and talk about it.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go, Tuesday reserved.
Tuesday
So,
night, you're all over.
But yeah, so we can get something lined up with Tim to be able to do that.
Mhm.
So you want to try tentatively for Tuesday night?
No, we can't, we need Tim's schedule, so I will.
He may be working,
I will
knowing
work
that
on
there's-
that while you work on the list of the priorities.
I can do Wednesday night, I just can't do Wednesday during the day, cause I'm at market.
All right, I'm writing this down.
I could do that, but like you said, check with Tim and,
All right, anything else we wanted to discuss?
Catherine, the only other thing was, and maybe you sent it to me and it got buried, but I didn't notice that I received the updated calendar and we were gonna go over that tonight. Remember when we talked in my,
I've got,
Right, Eric.
I have the copy upstairs for you, but our meetings are scheduled for the second Tuesday of each month.
right, but we're coming up to the point where we need to meet more frequently, and that was the part that I wanted to plan out. So like in August and September and
You mean the regular
October,
budget
because of the budget
meetings?
stuff, we've gotta start
Yeah,
meeting.
we've got, on the calendar are the regular budget meetings and everything.
Right, and that's what I had asked for, because I didn't have that.
Yeah, and we redid the month of June, and so everything else will stay the same. So I have a copy upstairs for you.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
which I can provide after the meeting. Yeah, and if anyone else wants an updated one that has the correct month of June, because we moved meetings around, I can
And that-
provide
does
Well,
that-
this is the last meeting for June, so.
Does that calendar have the budget?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I was,
Yes.
that's what I was looking for.
Yeah, we put the whole budget calendar meetings on there, the finance ordinance, and the,
I was more really just
other
concerned about,
recycling committee, yeah.
yeah, I was really just concerned about how we're planning out the budget meetings and
Yeah, I
everything.
have that, I put that all on there.
Thank you so much, Catherine.
No, that's fine.
I was looking for my email and I was like, oh my goodness, I hope I didn't accidentally delete this.
No, you
So you didn't send it?
Yeah, I made a copy for you because I know you have trouble with the printer and it has colors on it and everything.
Catherine, can you just send that out to everybody, just to remind everybody? Because we do have two newish counselors that it might not be at the forefront for them.
Yes.
And then.
Yeah, I think Michael would be the only person that doesn't have that.
Yeah.
We're making a package of other things like his budget and
Okay.
everything else for him too.
Okay. And then everybody will have it up front. And then, do you also want to send that to the department heads so that they know
Oh, good idea.
when they're gonna be?
They'll get the whole budget calendar with the package and everything. It's just not time yet. We're way ahead.
Okay.
Yeah. And I've learned if I send something out now, I'll have to resend it anyway.
I might have to resend it for all of us too.
Pete, you had a question?
Well, I just want to make a closing comment if I could. I just want to thank all of you for supporting the police department, full-time and the reserves, the whole department. I look at it as one department, and I know the officers are appreciative, and they are, as I said earlier, they're working really hard. The full-timers and the reserve officers, remember the reserve officers all have full-time jobs. One of my reserve officers is going to be a medical doctor, an MD. He's going to the University of Vermont. He drove all the way back here yesterday to work a shift for me last night. So they all appreciate the efforts of the town and trying to keep them safe.
Well, we appreciate them.
We do, we appreciate everything that
Yeah.
they do.
Yep.
All right, anything else? Are we all set?
I think I'm good. Pete, you have been awfully quiet. I know you're not part of our committee, but do you have anything?
Just observing.
Okay.
He's learned a lot.
So then, if nobody else has it, we can adjourn.